In a bright and bustling city on the coast of an island lived a curious boy named Aryan. He loved solving problems, asking questions, and building little machines in his backyard workshop. His favorite hero, Archimedes, the bathtub genius. One summer, after a heavy rain, the rivers flooded and the farms were under water. Crops were dying. The people in the village were worried. Aryan remembered reading about an ancient invention called the Archimedes screw, a spiral shaped tool that lifts water from a lower level to a higher level using a simple turning movement. Aryan got to work. Using scrap metal and solar panels, he built a working version of the screw. When he placed it in the water and turned it on, it worked like magic. Water flowed up and out, back into the right canals. The farms were saved, everyone cheered, but Aryan just smiled. He knew that this was one way Archimedes' ideas were still helping the world. Later in school, Aryan's science teacher showed them how the Archimedes principle helps doctors also. They learned how scientists use it to measure the density of bones and teeth. In hospitals, doctors place bones in special fluids and measure how much fluid they displace to learn how strong or weak the bone is. It helps in treating conditions like osteoporosis and planning surgeries. Aryan was amazed. It was like solving a mystery inside the body using just water and science. Aryan also read about dentists who used Archimedes' principle to check the size of the teeth by dipping them in liquid and comparing the results with the 3D scans. It was like blending ancient wisdom with modern technology, and of course, it worked very beautifully. And then came the most exciting project of all, the science fair. Aryan built a model of the submarine using Archimedes' principle again. Submarines, he explained, float when their tanks are full of air. But when water fills the tanks, they become heavier and then they sink. By controlling the amount of water inside, submarine can dive, float, or stay still underwater. The judges were amazed at how well he explained it, and he won the first prize. One evening, Aryan sat by the pond near his home and saw tiny insects, water striders, skating on the surface. He learned that they too were using a trick similar to Archimedes' principle. They pushed down just enough to bend the water without breaking it, and the water pushed back, holding them up. Scientists had studied this behavior to build water walking robots inspired by nature and explained by physics. Years passed by and Aryan grew up to become a geophysicist. He explored the Earth's layers, studied strange fluids in the deep underground, and used a new version of the Archimedes principle called the generalized Archimedes principle. This version explained tricky things like why sometimes heavier particles float in lighter liquids. It helps scientists to understand sediments, volcanic mud flows, and even the movement of underground oil and gas. Aryan always remembered that the floating city of science was just lifted by a man in a bathtub. The Archimedes principle wasn't just about floating. It was about balance. It was about discovery. It was about noticing the small things that explain the big things. From lifting water in the fields, to building submarines, to healing bones, to walking on water, one idea had sailed through thousands of years, lifting up generation after generation. And every time Aryan saw someone solving a problem with science, he smiled and whispered, "Eureka! Eureka!"